Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm talking about a slightly more serious topic, and that is to finish a game or not to finish a game. Many of us feel this compunction to complete games that we start, and nowadays I've noticed that the internet is just loaded with articles saying, oh, it's okay to quit. Don't feel like you need to finish all these games. You can quit whenever you want. But many of these articles and videos just don't really address the science behind the why, which I think will help us better determine when to finish a game and when to put one down. Because, the answer isn't exactly binary. It's not going to always be you should always quit a game or you should always finish it. So today I want to look at the science and the psychology behind why it is so hard to put down a game and why we don't like to leave things unfinished and how we can better address this problem. First, before we get to the science, I want to talk about some of the reasons why we feel compelled to finish games, even when we don't really want to. One might be the hype of a game. All your friends are playing the new Zelda, you pick it up and you're having fun, but you're like, this isn't what I'm feeling. I already kind of did this with Breath of the Wild. Number 2, we spend good money on games. Whether or not it's a new $60 game, or a collector's game you're spending for like $100 for Brave Fencer Musashi or something on PS1, you spend good money on it, so you feel like you want to finish the game and get your money's worth. Number 3 is nostalgia. You go back to a game you loved as a kid. For me, I picked up Final Fantasy VIII again, and I was like, I am having some fun with this, but I definitely don't love this game as much as I used to. So I put it down, but nostalgia can be a huge factor. 4 is community, and this might actually be the biggest one. All your friends are playing the new Borderlands game, and you're like, I love Borderlands 2, but Borderlands 3 just isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. But all my friends are playing it, so maybe I should keep playing it too, so I can be in the in-group with the community. And number 5, and the final reason that I'll bring up now, is it's just been in your back catalog for too long. For me, a game like that is Mario 64. It's a game, as someone who grew up with a PS1, I finally have an N64 and I've been playing it and having fun with it, but I keep putting it down and just kind of being like, okay, get a few more stars here. And it feels good to put it down because it feels like a game I am eventually going to beat, but when I play it too much, I start to get a little bit bored. Alright, so those are just 5 reasons, but there's obviously many more reasons you might feel that feeling of just, I have to finish this. Let's get into the science. I want to start with something called the Zeigarnik Effect. This was discovered by a Russian psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik, and what she did was that she noticed that waiters in a restaurant had an easier time remembering details pertaining to unpaid bills over paid ones. So when a bill was paid, the waiters would more or less start to forget the details of that order. This theory suggests that failing a task or not completing a task creates a certain level of cognitive tension, which keeps the task front and center in your mind. Completed tasks are easier to let go than incomplete tasks. Now, you might notice that this is actually employed in many games, books, and TV shows. I think a TV show is the easiest one to use for this example. So imagine you're watching a series. At the end of the episode, it ends with a cliffhanger. How do you feel when you finish that episode? There's a certain level of kind of frustration mixed with fascination and curiosity, but you really want to know how those loose ends are tied up. Your brain just won't let you kind of put it down because it doesn't know what's going to happen, and it really wants to know what's going to happen next. Now, the second effect that kind of works in tandem with the Zeigarnik Effect is something called the Ovsiankina Effect, and I might have totally bastardized saying that. This basically says that unfinished tasks lead to excessive rumination and intrusive thoughts, which end up leading to a desire to finish the incomplete tasks. An interesting study in 1927 had participants working on the same task. However, 50% of them were interrupted in the middle of the task. After the task was completed, they found that the people who had been interrupted had a better memory of what they were doing during the task than the people who were allowed to finish it in one go. However, when it comes to something like completing finished tasks, it's important to note that there's a lot of conflicting studies that suggest that other factors like motivation and other stuff can play a critical role in who finishes something and who doesn't. And both of these kind of interplay with something happening in your mind. When you pick up something like a new video game, it starts off as sensory memory. You see the colors, you kind of feel the music, you see what's going on in the game, but you don't really have it locked into your brain yet. But you keep playing a little while and you get a little bit invested in the game. This is where the game might enter your short-term memory and start literally vying for space in there. Now, all of this suggests that unfinished games might literally weigh on us and vie for that short-term memory spot. Turning the game off before the end might result in some kind of negative lightweight trauma, such as difficulty sleeping, a loss of focus during class, or just a certain level of anxiety and a desire to return to that game. I briefly want to touch on what's happening while you play the games though, because I think this actually kind of combines with what we just discussed. So when you're playing a game, especially a more modern game, with tons of side quests and tasks and a certain level of intricacy you just wouldn't see in something like an arcade game, you can get caught in something called the arbitrary endpoint trap. This basically is your brain telling you that there's not a definitive end. You can just do a little bit of something extra, like, I got to complete this one extra quest that'll take 15 minutes, then I can stop. But then something happens after the quest that keeps you playing. Let's use Zelda Tears of the Kingdom here. Imagine you're helping a Korok find its long-lost pal. But while you're trying to find that long-lost pal, you stumble upon a new shrine. But you've got to go to sleep, but that shrine will only take like 10 minutes, so get that Korok to its friend, let's go in the shrine. 15 minutes go by, you finish the shrine, but then you notice a cave in the distance, and I could stop playing and go to sleep, it is bedtime, but I kind of wanted to take a peek in that cave. We can get to the cave tomorrow, I just want to get there tonight. You go to the cave, and then you notice immediately that you can use your bombs to mine for some valuable gems. So you start mining for these valuable gems, and then 30 minutes goes by, and now you're halfway through the cave. Well, now I'm 30 minutes past bedtime, but I might as well finish this cave. I'm already in there, right? So then you finish the cave. But then, I could sleep, but I really want to go to Goron Village and sell off all these gems I just mined. And now I really should sleep. I went an hour and a half past bedtime. I need to work in the morning, but I really want to buy this new flame-resistant armor. You can see how this arbitrary endpoint trap is really easy to get stuck in, and it means we end up feeling like we accomplish a lot when we play by doing these many smaller tasks that kind of lead to bigger ones. And all this stuff leads to basically the bigger part of the game that allows us to feel more of a challenge and a reward. For instance, after all these small tasks in Zelda, maybe you get to the new area with the next actual temple, and that's going to be a bigger area, more complexity, more time. That's going to challenge your brain in a more interesting way. So doing all these small tasks prepares you for that. Now, I mention these aspects of the science because after you do this for many hours, you can get something called the cost-sunk fallacy to slip in, meaning that you've invested so much time into the game that you feel like you can't quit because you will have wasted that time and have really lost something, even if you're feeling bored or just want to quit the game. This quitting can feel like a giant defeat. But let's address that. Drum roll, please. Is it okay to quit a game, or should you quit the game? Obviously, it is okay to quit a game. I don't think that we're exactly stumbling upon a great philosophical understanding to say that. I mean, you won't literally be tossed into a coliseum unarmed against a centurion for quitting a game. But it can be painful, it can cause anxiety, and I've definitely stuck with games I didn't love or didn't really want to keep playing because of this feeling. Sometimes it was worth it, and sometimes it wasn't. I think it really is worth highlighting that quitting can also be temporary. You can come back to the game later. It doesn't mean you need to quit forever. But if you do quit forever, then whatever. I mean, there's probably no consequences to suffer for doing so. This basically just allows you to fight back against your brain and tell you that, yeah, I'll return to Hyrule when I'm damn good and ready, and not a second before that, and I am not going to feel guilty for doing it. That said, this question really depends on the game, the player, the situation. For me, for example, I will never quit a game if I make it like 90% in. If I'm like, I got one dungeon to go and I got to beat the big bad boss, or I'm on the last level of the game, I'm not quitting there. I put so much time into it there, and there's just a little bit left to go. Even if it's a little bit painful, I got to finish that off and tie those loose ends. But for me, a huge part of overcoming this was actually overcoming the FOMO of not playing all the new releases. Once I realized, like, oh my god, I'm missing these new releases, and it doesn't really affect me that negatively now that I'm just allowing myself that just did wonders in me kind of being able to skip games and not necessarily need to finish them and have that kind of experience. And that's a whole nother topic for a different video, is dealing with kind of the more collector, consumerist side of gaming. So in short, I really think that quitting a game is fine, of course. You could argue that games are just entertainment, which, might be true, though to me that actually sounds really cheap because I do derive a lot of meaning from games that I love. But it's also not life or death. Like anything else, understanding the way your guilt for dropping a game builds and building habits such as not playing games that bore you or taking extended breaks from games that are making you feel negative can really open a new realm of freedom and allow you to overcome all these psychological dilemmas. At the end of the day, it's really about overcoming your brain and realizing what takes priority. Is it beating this game or is it something else? Unfortunately, that's only a question that you can answer, which might seem frustrating, but do take some solace in the fact that you will be better off for making whatever decision improves your mental health and your overall well-being, and your personal life and circumstances that affect how you play games, when you play games, how long, is different for everybody. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I have 2 questions to leave you with. 1, when do you think it's better to quit playing a game and why? And kind of an addendum to that question, when is it better to finish a game rather than quit? And question 2, secondly, what game is still haunting you for not finishing it? I will put my answer in the comments. I look forward to seeing them below. Please like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Game on.